Oh, 25th day of June 2015, the Ochelli Effect is live on UCY.TV radio. Want to thank you for tuning in to UCY.TV/TOE, where you might be hearing this if you're catching this further on down the line. Appreciate that as well. You can find the YouTube playlist, the MP3 downloads, and all that good stuff at UCY.TV/TOE. And every last one of you is appreciated, no matter how you found this tonight. So, got an interesting guest in my mind, a man I definitely have wanted to talk to for some time. And let's see what happens here. First of all, I'm actually going to play something, because I'm crazy and I want to just, spite the YouTube gods and see if it works. I was told it would, and maybe it'll allow this thing to go onto YouTube, maybe it won't, but we'll find out. Let's see.
Substance abuse is at an all-time high worldwide, and the most dangerous of the ones prescribed. Terrorism, drunk drivers, AIDS, and swine flu. Doctors murder more than all of them combined do. I just came from my local chain store when the clerk asked me if I wanted to donate for the cure. I looked at her and tried to remain cool and said anybody who makes a contribution to that is a fool. Her expression was that of I never. I said I can tell and I think you better. Give it a try, stop living a lie. Look up once in a while, see the shit in the sky. Caught up in the zombie apocalypse, walking down the street staring at your iPhone 6. Legal drugs murder millions every year, that's a fact, but they won't dare take the Prozac on the rack. For that would be blasphemous to the medical mafia disastrous. The FDA, all crooks, all thugs. They want the whole population hooked on drugs. Be it the smack sold on their black markets or psychotropic shit in their well-lit office. Dope fiends got a plan that can save them, but the methadone is money and they can't have kratom.
Now, in case you don't recognize that, you need to. PayDay Monsanto is my guest tonight, and I think I got him on the line, and I'm real happy to be talking to him. We're going to discuss a few things, and hopefully I'll play a couple more clips from his stuff. Definitely check that one out. It is called Addicts Wanted. At least that's the way I understand the title. How you doing tonight, PayDay?
Hey, Chuck. How you doing?
All right, all right. Look, man, it took me a while to get a hold of you.
Yeah, it did.
I am so happy to have you on the show. You have no idea. Uh,
Likewise.
I,
Glad to
I
be here.
absolutely love your stuff, man. You're. I'm usually not known for being like a hip hop guy,
Me neither.
but you neither. You're funny, but I love your stuff, man. You're. It's just first of all, you got a smooth style, okay, which is rare. Everybody tries to be like rough and hard about everything when it comes to the hip hop. When it comes to outside of the mainstream kind of hip hop right now,
Hmm.
and that's not it. It's like I really feel like when I'm listening to you, you're being you. You know what I mean? You're not trying to bulk up on your sound, and you're not trying to be somebody you're not. And
No gorilla
that's
suit.
there you go. And it's amazing to hear that, you know. And of course, you've been around a while, and people have heard you, and sometimes don't even know they've heard you. People that listen to my network are aware of you. That's for sure. Because Drew Shalley has a show on Sundays here, Cold Reality News, and he was on one of your tracks a ways back. I think it was
Yes,
called Goy
sir.
Boy.
Boy, boy.
Yep, he was playing guitar on that track, right?
He did a bang up job in D minor. He did.
Hell yes. He's an
Hmm.
awesome guitar player, anyhow. I mean,
Absolutely.
any genre that I've ever heard him, even when he's just screwing around, and he does that on his show on Sundays sometimes. I love when he does that. But anyway, back to talking about you. I want to get
Yeah,
into it.
I want to listen to. I noticed the logo there. UCY, and I know I recognize that from Drew as well. And it's sad that I I really want to get like, a link and be able to listen more often to this network and Drew as well.
Well, UCY.TV, that's the only place you need to go. There's a player there and all kinds of little tabs where you can
I'm
go ahead
gonna
and
do that.
find whichever show you want and all that. So anytime, and there's a variety of people on here. So, anyhow,
Mhm.
I'm telling you, man, I'm really excited. It's funny. I mean, I get people on that are, professors and all that, but I love artists because I was a musician myself. I mean, I worked with a lot of different musicians over the years, different genres. Again, primarily I was known as like a hard rock, heavy metal guy, but people don't understand that in a lot of cases, when you're an artist, you might get known for something, but you got a lot of different influences, and
Mhm.
I can hear it in your music. But let's take it from the top though, because listening to your stuff, let's just put the politics aside for a moment, okay?
Mhm.
Just the sound and everything. You have your own thing going. It's real smooth. One time you and I ran into each other on a roundtable show, and you mentioned that one of your influences was Big Daddy Kane, and I said I can hear that.
Hmm.
But I'm wondering, who else it was that kind of kicked you off into the idea of making music. What is it that got you started?
I grew up around it. It's just one of those things. I was in utero and I heard different artists, everything from Neil Young to Led Zeppelin to Marvin Gaye to oldies, even, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Just a very broad spectrum of stuff. And, what made me want to make music was probably my desire to want to express myself. And hip hop seemed like the perfect vessel and venue for that, in which it is.
Right, and you could definitely hear that you had some soul influence. That's for sure. You mentioned Marvin Gaye, but I'm sure a lot of the Motown type stuff, not necessarily the bubblegum type
Yeah.
Motown, but a lot of the grittier sort of stuff.
Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, just
Hmm.
the classics. But it goes back to the ink spots and whatnot. But at the same time, classic rock is a heavy influence in my life. Beatles, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, the usual characters, usual suspects, and a whole lot more.
Oh yeah, and again, and somebody told me I was crazy, but I definitely heard that you probably had a brief love affair, at least with the Stone sound, because it's evident in some of the transitions, because they had that sort of adopted blues influence, although they were English,
Hmm.
and blues is a uniquely American style. They definitely tried to adopt it in their careers for quite some time, and it did influence the entire catalog when it came to the Stones.
Absolutely.
But and then again, they did sort of give in to the pop, to the pop demands that were made of them at one point. But when they were making music for the sake of making music, you could hear that heavy blues influence. I mean,
Hmm.
people would never have heard of guys like, say, Muddy Waters and things like that, even in America, if it wasn't for the Stones.
Yeah, man. Same with Zeppelin, right? You know, a lot of that stuff, the early stuff, and all throughout the span of Zeppelin, you hear that Muddy Waters, that Robert Johnson, just that classic blues.
Yeah, and I love Robert Johnson, man. Robert Johnson's some incredible stuff. I mean, when they put out that box set some years ago, people complained it was awfully repetitious and everything, but they didn't understand, the nature of recording at that point in time. I
Mm.
mean, that's what you were going to get. You were
Mm.
literally pressing an acetate, because this is even before the use in a major sense of like tape and stuff like that, which is now all
Mm.
passe. I mean, I used to work in recording studios, with all kinds of artists, hundreds of guys you never heard of, and occasionally some people you might have, you know,
Mm. Yeah.
and well,
Where was that at, Chuck?
in New York and New Jersey,
Cool.
I was in the Asbury Park area for a lot of my time, but I also ended up in the East Village, like around Alphabet City in that area. So I had neighbors ranging from Gigi Allen to Lou Reed. You know what I mean?
Wow.
These were literally just guys in my neighborhood. And Trent Reznor, who was from Nine Inch Nails, rented an apartment not far from where I was at, and wound up working with him for a little bit. But what are you going to do?
Mm.
The only other guy, like a major note, I would say that I'm sure you heard of is a guy from Cypress Hill named, he calls himself Be Real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had an incredible setup in a like in a storage. It was like in a storage facility, like a commercial storage facility. He set up a
Mm.
studio, and it was out. I got to think. It was out by I think it was the Whitestone area of Queens where he set it up. I don't know. I don't know if it's still there or if he
Wow.
kept it or anything else. But we're talking 20 years ago, or better, and
Damn.
this is what he had there because they were making some money at that time, and he was experimenting. I never got to hear that stuff like hit the streets, but he was experimenting with some pretty wild stuff.
Was this just after they put out their big the hit? How I Could Just Kill a Man. I think that was the first one. When they just exploded.
It was right around that time. It was right around that
Nice.
time, like just shortly before, like, say, Bad Boy emerged everywhere,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. So,
That
but
shit kind of convoluted the market.
yeah, well, there you go. That's why I mentioned it.
It
It changed things. It changed it a lot.
did.
But anyway, getting back to how you started and all that. I mean, what did you first record? Did you go straight for hip hop, or did you experiment with other stuff and kind of have you got some recordings laying around of you trying to do, oh, I don't know, some soul music, some blues, because I can hear you got some chops as a singer too if you want. So I'm wondering if you ever tried that too.
I did. I did. I had this. I think I made some recordings on. I did the old pause button break, two tape cassette decks, and you know, it, uh, but I think the most notable first recording that I did was actually like a beatbox harmony with the pause button break, but it was done with an old Sonic radio. There's two classic ones. The one tall, thin one, and then the other one with the detachable speakers. I had the the latter one first, and that had the two tape decks, and you could play in one and record in the other. And I would just go back and forth and just overdub and overdub. And by the time I was done, it sounded horrendous quality wise, and you know, sonically and artistically. But yeah, I tried to do my own thing. Uh, I remember I was just around the time that the first Gulf War started. I didn't know any better. I made up a song called "I Say We Dropped the Bomb on Saddam."
Yeah, well, you know what? Even as early or as recent as post 9/11 fervor, I wasn't quite aware. So don't feel bad about that. I mean, I remember being shocked and horrified by the first Gulf War because I was still in high school, and I knew that a lot of my friends who had been, through the ROTC program and all that might be quite eligible to wind up going over there. And I thought it would be the quagmire that, it took another
Mm-hmm.
decade for us to really see.
Mm-hmm.
And so, look, we all had our point at which, we took a smack in the face, either given to it by ourselves, by our own persons or by somebody else. Okay.
Yeah, you
And
get tricked into that righteous indignation, and it's not even real, and you get all this patriotism. I was 13, I think, at the time, and I loved America. I didn't even know what it was, of course,
mhm.
and but yeah, after 9/11 happened, that was kind of like a milestone in my life, naturally, in my music. It's only to follow, right?
Well, absolutely, because they often say like art imitates life or life imitates art, and both of them are true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in a lot of cases, art can influence life, and definitely, you've got nothing to build legitimate art that has any sort of a semblance of a soul without drawing on one's own life. So your experiences and your perceptions are going to feed into that, and that doesn't necessarily mean just lyrically, but even in the choice of expression, the tones you choose, the beat, the rhythm, the things that you create are going to come from that, or at least that's the way I see it.
No, without doubt, and with little exception,
There you
I
go.
think.
I'll tell you what else. It's fascinating to me to think back to you sitting there bouncing tracks back and forth with just the two tape decks, because everybody has again that point of ignorance. It's almost the same thing regarding politics, where you don't realize that there's a whole other machine and a whole other world of possibilities that you might be able to get your hands on. Like, I
Mm.
remember being a teenager and first getting shown what a little 8-track machine could do, where they used a cassette, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
and you
It's
could flip it
amazing.
back and forth. It used all the track. You remember those?
I do, and I remember getting my first DAT recorder, digital audio tape recorder. It
Oh
was
yeah.
ecstatic.
Oh well, that because then you had no trouble with the degrading problem where
Yeah, right.
the tracks would turn into mud the more you overdubbed.
But yeah, it wasn't an 8-track, but it was a 4-track. What I got my hands on one of those, even before I knew an 8-track existed. I didn't even know a 4-track existed, and then suddenly, I had one,
Hmm.
and yeah, I was happy about that.
Well, that was a good point, and I'll tell you what else. Then you wind up because I don't know how much of your work you do yourself, kind of like in a home studio now, because the technology is there. But a lot of it, I'll tell you, whoever, if it's just you doing your own work, because see, I don't know all this. I don't know who does the production with you or any of that, and I'm wondering if you want to just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a one-man operation, essentially. I mean, I can't even think of anything outside of that. And that's why a lot of my stuff you'll hear it doesn't. Some of it's more polished than other stuff. Much of it sounds like it's one take, and then I put it aside, and then maybe I'll come back to it and add a couple things, and tie up some loose ends on it. But I just kind of evaluated this myself in the last year. I think as long as it, I feel that the point is getting through, is cutting through, and everything can be heard. It really doesn't matter to me. All the accoutrements that, and with special exception, some things I want to polish up and spend time on. It's not even necessarily the desire to want to polish them. It's just having fun doing it. So, I really don't put much, for the most part, into having it sound too polished. Just as long as you can hear the message and it comes through the system, you know, it treats the speakers well. But yeah, it's all me, Chuck.
Oh, well, there you go. That explains a lot. And and to be honest with you, I always view music in very much the same way that I do women, and that is that in some cases the imperfections are what adds
Yeah,
to the
man.
experience.
You start putting lipstick on them beautiful lips, and you cover up the natural tone. I tell my girlfriend all the time,
Got it.
even though it looks good, but just it's sometimes it could take away from the natural beauty of
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. Some things are just good, as they occur, and you
Hmm.
don't necessarily need to dress them up. And you know what? But some things are worthy and require a bit of dressing. It's just the way of things, because each one of these creations is a separate one in and of itself. Even though you end up with what they call a catalog, it doesn't mean that it's there just to be ordered and it's just another version of a similar product. Each individual creation is something in and of itself. So, and that's
Absolutely.
the feel I get from yours. That's why probably your techniques have changed regarding how much you want to polish it and everything else. Plus, getting at the message is, again, the most remarkable thing about what you're doing, because not too many artists of any genre are out there speaking to the same type of principles that, like, we do regarding alternative media.
Hmm.
Okay, there's a couple of guys out there. I mean, uh, it doesn't even matter who I want to name, but the
There's a
point
few,
is,
and
yeah,
it's a shame that they don't get. It seems the more they give in is when they start to get the recognition,
right.
and an Immortal Technique comes to mind. You have K Reno, you got Diesel Automatic who just jumped on the scene, and the dude is incredible. It's there's a similar backstory there in insofar as why he decided to. I heard an interview where he said, I have this skill and I want to use it for something instead of just getting in line and following, getting in to fit in and going along to get along. I want to actually use it for something that's in my heart.
Hmm.
And there's lots of them. The K Reno, that guy's not. He has a following. I think he's probably one of the most popular. It's yeah it's He has a pretty big following, but
Hmm.
even with that being said, most people never heard of him. And I have a pretty decent following, and most people never heard of me, certainly. And I think that's a sad reflection on our society. And you mentioned like art imitating life and life imitating art. I think what we've had, since this culture, hip hop has been taken over, and coupled with other things, is we've had a feedback loop of the art imitating life, and then the life imitating art, and the art not being true to life, and the art that which is not true to life being imitated more, and then it's going back into the art, and it's creating a false, deleterious, if you ask me, feedback loop where you have these people aping stuff that isn't even true, and then it just continue. It's a vicious circle that doesn't stop. As far as
Right.
we have a lot of life imitating art, and the art which is fake and detrimental to society, if you ask me. When you have little kids and little girls uh, and boys, of course, just looking at this promiscuous behavior, the drug dealing, drug consuming, gangster culture. It, it's it's to be expected what's happening now, and a lot of it is because of this music and the culture. They roll out the red carpet for garbage, as I like to say.
Mm. And it is a surreal feedback loop, as opposed to a feedback loop that would be reality in a sort of real disingenuous sense at this
Hmm.
point. And that's really what the problem is. And look, I got nothing against somebody speaking their mind, and if they come from a hard place and they want to talk about hard things, that's
A
all
lot of
good.
times, Chuck, they'll make up this character and then they'll feel obligated to play it, because if you're making up this character and then you have to go out and show that you are this character, and then and it's just a disgusting thing. I hear you. There's somebody speaking their mind. They came from a hard time, but what's somebody with $50 million pouring out $20,000 bottles of champagne
Mhm.
doing, still stuck in this ridiculous cycle of garbage?
Well, yeah, precisely. Is once your circumstances change,
Yeah,
you
it
should have
speaks
a
to their
different.
limited ability to express themselves. They haven't, dug themselves out mentally. You got Jay-Z, he's talking about there's not enough, we don't have enough black people. And there's a pic, in the music and in management, and there's a picture of them with all those people, and they're all white Jews.
Right.
You know,
And isn't that amazing? Is that he's talking about these types of issues and trying to project himself as as somebody who is being oppressed because he has no choices. And meanwhile, this is a man who has nothing but choices.
yeah, yeah.
And you know what? If he owned them and just said, "Look, the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm doing this," that would be one thing. But again, it's that disingenuous loop, right? So, in a political sense and in an artistic sense, these guys do that all the time. And you know what? Right quick before I forget, I want to just take a second here to give a shout out to Dennis Ford because without him helping me a bit, this interview tonight wouldn't have happened. So Dennis Ford is a host. He's currently on Truth Emerges Radio, but was on NWO Truth Radio. But Dennis, thank you. All
Thanks,
right,
Dennis.
do appreciate you,
Absolutely.
and I want to make sure I got that out before I forgot. So sorry if I messed up your train of thought a little bit.
No, not at all, man.
But this is how I do things. I never script it, and I don't care who I'm talking to. This is the way it goes. So it is what it is. Um, but so back to again, you got these roots which are diverse, right? And like I said, it's evident in what you're creating. And I love the use of the horns in a lot of your music as well. Is there a particular reason why you've got wind instruments? Like it seems to me pretty prominent in a lot of your stuff.
You know what? I was just thinking about this a few weeks ago that in the early stuff, when I was primarily sampling, you hear a lot of these horns, and I was just thinking about how I kind of abandoned that, at least to the extent that I would prefer, because, well, and long story short, I'm thinking to myself, I need more horns. You know, there's not enough, but it's because I love them. If you hear them, it's that it's that DJ Premier influence.
Well,
Pete Rock, DJ Premier.
oh yeah, absolutely. And plus, really speaking from just the side of being a musician, it's one of those things where it's warm and it's very human. That sound, you know what I mean?
You hear
It's
the breath. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just exactly it breathes and it can be rhythmic, but it can also be melodic at the same time, which is something that not every instrument can so easily do. So I can see how just that can give you all sorts of possibilities for setting mood, and especially with some of the very strong statements you're making in your lyrics. Okay, to sometimes create a contrast or to sometimes lead someone into like a crescendo on occasion, right? Like when you start to pick up speed, which I notice is always done for emphasis,
Hmm.
with your lyrics, right? That is something that just it just walks hand in hand with using the horns because it's like you can feel the intensity of those things picking up in the bed, and
Hmm.
then your voice picks up just a little bit. You don't get all that extremely intense sometimes saying some real intense things, which to me makes it even more stark as a reality, you know. So I appreciate that a lot, and I
And a lot of that's by design, because you'll find me yelling a lot, and even with some of the stuff I've been recording lately, because of the anger that I've been feeling, since y- I've been deprived of my 4-year-old daughter, by the airhead mother.
mm,
But Hitler's Dream, I was going back and forth on that, calm and then excited, and there's a few others. But yeah, you know what? That's by design in some instances where saying some really deep shit and something that should outrage someone and someone who you would think saying it should be outraged in a real calm manner.
Well, right, because again, it's that contrast, and it's also, to me, it's brilliant because a lot of people figure that intense points need to always be made with the highest amount of volume, and that's not necessary. You know, so again, it's just one of those things. I'm like just saying, damn, that's good.
I appreciate that. Another impetus, driving force behind that is when I think it probably early mid '90s, mid late '90s maybe, especially when people started screaming on tracks and their veins are popping out of their head. And I wanted to go the opposite way, and I actually learned how to whisper on a track and use noise reduction if needed, and dynamics to let that be audible
Mm.
and cut through the track. It was kind, and also, sometimes when I was young, I'd have to be quiet. So, it kind of played a part in whispering or talking very low, and then trying to make it audible in the edit.
Plus, to be honest with you, the nature of I don't know how long you lived in Philly, but the nature of that city kind of lends itself to that as well because a lot of other cities are much louder than Philadelphia in
Mm.
America. You know, so when you're dealing with hip hop, this is just again my estimation. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems to me as though that sort of smooth constant in the city of Philadelphia, which is decidedly different than say from a city like New York or uh, even places like I don't know, like Los Angeles, where you got a lot more noise, you got a lot more like a lot more bustle in the air, kind of like on a continuous basis. There's always like an ebb and flow that seems pretty even in
Mm.
Philadelphia, and I don't know exactly how to explain that. I mean, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and it's kind of paradoxical, but if you're at an Eagles game, you're going to hear lots of noise, and
Oh yeah.
Santa Claus might get hit with D batteries.
Yep.
You know, forget the snowballs. But it's. I think I always characterize Philly as an immature city, not quite as immature as Camden. A lot of the smaller towns try to, they just explode with violence
Hmm.
because they feel like they're in the shadows, especially like a Camden, New Jersey. I think in the shadows of Philadelphia, they want to be, known for murder, which they are, many years. And I think Philly has that kind of too, being in the shadow of New York as a loud, immature city. I actually find, like again, it's paradoxical. There's overlaps, but in places like Manhattan and particular parts of Brooklyn and Queens, even especially,
Hmm.
there's a maturity level there where it's not as likely. It happens more often because you're dealing with 8 times the people, but per capita, it's not as likely. I think that lends itself to the fact that I see New York as a very mature city as opposed to Philadelphia.
That's a perfect way to put it because Camden is like that because of a general sort of lack of immaturity and being in the shadow of, a couple of major metropolitan areas.
Hmm.
Even Newark to some degree is like that, you know, but it's not as bad as say Camden. Again, you got a higher population density, you got a higher occurrence of things, per capita in these areas where the population density is lower,
Hmm.
right? And I think that is kind of like a good way to look at it, though, a general sort of immaturity of the metropolitan area, you know.
I remember, in 2005 and 6 and 7, I was traveling on the Greyhounds. So I came in contact with females from different states, and I went to see them. And, one time on the way to Pittsburgh, we stopped at somewhere in the middle of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and somebody saw my Philadelphia hat, and they're like, "Damn, you motherfuckers are crazy." And the same thing happened on the way to Nashville, Tennessee. In Nashville,
Mm.
there was a group of kids, and they looked at me. That they looked like they want to rob me, and they said, "What's up, cuz? What's up, cuz? Where you from? You from Philly?" And they were talking to each other. They're like, "Oh, this nigga's from Philly. Watch out! I don't want to fuck with that nigga. Don't fuck with that nigga. He's from Philly." And I'm looking like, bad reputation.
Yeah, well,
What's up, cuz?
nice. I'm picturing it in my mind. Excuse me, that's why I'm laughing.
The
Oh,
gold teeth and all, the grill and that oversized hat.
oh, the grill and the oversized hat that
Mm.
yeah.
I took my hat off and I looked at it like, damn, you might have saved my life because I just went to the store, by myself, a couple blocks from my friend's house that I
Right.
was going to see.
Oh man, that's hysterical.
It looked like something out of a movie on my way back from the Kroger. I'd never been in a Kroger, but twice, in my life since I was there, before I came. And I'm just walking out of the parking lot eating some cherries, and there's nobody around except this group of kids, like six of them, sitting on a stoop, and it looked like something out of a movie.
Wow.
When somebody gets robbed and killed.
Yeah, you were expecting confrontation, and what they did is give you space.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, that's good. So, and I know I'm jumping all around, but how is it though that you go from, was it just 9/11, and was it immediate after that, or were you caught up in that fervor? I mean, was that where you changed from, kind of still believing that there was an American dream to understanding that a lot of people are just dreaming?
You know what? Absolutely not. It was like the prior 5 years or so where I was learning, all this stuff. And when 9/11 happened in October, we were running the VHS tapes back and seeing, just looking that this is a farce. And by October, November, I was yelling, it's inside job.
Mm.
That planes aren't going to knock buildings down like that.
No, and that's the thing, and I got to admit right here that it took me about another 4 years before I really got it, because it took time to resonate, man. It
It
was
does. It does. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no, I was just agreeing with you. It does. It takes time, and there's a cognitive dissonance where even if you know, I've had this happen to me with so many words, so many times. People said, even if it was true, I wouldn't believe you. Basically, is what they're telling me.
Hmm.
Even my father, I almost got into a fist fight with him. Just he said, he threatened to like punch me if I mentioned the, controlled demolition again, whatever. But then a couple years later, after I, learned how to tread lightly around him and I apprised him of all these different things and all these anomalies and discrepancies, and then I came to him, I said, Pop, come on, what do you think? And he was like, son, about building 7. How's this happen, Pop? I showed him, building 7 falling. No plane hit this. And he like playfully said to me, he said, it was a lot of shit going on that day. The
Hmm.
building just, couldn't take it. But he knew the deal. I mean, you can't look at it and see, an I-beam falling that's going to do that, or a couple beams loose here and there that are going to make that building symmetrically drop like that.
Yeah, well,
And
that's the
so
problem
him
is the
knowing
symmetrical
this,
drop.
even him knowing this, he wouldn't outwardly admit it, and still doesn't. It probably to this day.
No, and that's the thing is that but it does take time because again, like you said, there's a lot of people about a lot of different subjects that will just look at you and say, even if I knew it was true, I wouldn't believe you. That's right. That's kind of how I was for a while there because even though I knew that something was wrong, I didn't want to get into it. I didn't want to admit to it. I didn't want to believe that something that big could be. And meanwhile, I was a guy who had studied like the JFK assassination in a serious way, all throughout the 90s. Even when I was a musician, when I would travel, I would take opportunities to speak to people that lived in different parts of the country who were witnesses to things, to verify information, because
Mm.
I wanted answers on that, right? And I knew that the government could lie. I knew that very, very well. But even so, something that big, something that was that earth shaking, in my lifetime, I couldn't wrap my mind around it for a couple of years, you know.
We're talking about the death of 3,000 people,
Right.
and it's difficult to accept. But then when you look at what the government has been complicit in and what they are complicit in, 3,000 people, that's a little piece of dirt on your shirt. It's nothing.
Hmm. No, that's exactly right.
It's a drop in the bucket.
So, but did you change, like, because of 9/11, the way that you were doing your thing? Or, I mean, because you knew stuff was wrong, but I mean, that was a glaring
Mm.
thing that you
Mhm.
saw right away. But I mean, as far as understand, I mean, how did you come to it though?
Uh, the change.
Yeah, the change from
The,
being, let's obviously go after, Saddam Hussein is the bad guy. I believe it because my government told me basically, because you
yeah.
even rapping about it, and let's go bomb them and let's do that, and buying into all that. What was the thing, the like say one thing that you could point to that made you go, wait a minute, you know?
Well, when what was it, 1990, around 90 that we were ramping up, or they
Yeah.
were ramping up. George Herbert Walker,
That
Daddy
was,
Bush.
you got it. Yep.
I'm 13, 14 years old, so I'm basically. I think part of it was, excuse me, being playful. I was kind of playful about it, and I wasn't even really putting any emotional gravitas in it or political. It was just a fun thing to do, and I came up with the melody. Uh,
Wow, I just lost power in the middle of my interview with PayDay Monsanto. Hold on, everybody. Oh man, you gotta love this. Completely lost power. telling you. Hold on, I'll get you. Oh. Payday,
Mr.
you're not
Ochelli.
going to believe this. We're back on the air, all right, but totally lost power there. Just click, everything just went out in my whole place.
Oh, damn. Is there a storm happening?
No, there's no storm.
That's strange.
Oh.
I thought it was me for a minute.
No, that's never happened to me before, and I'm sorry everybody who's listening, and they're going to hear this in about a minute, but they're even trying to call me and everything. Like, what happened? Where to go? Uh, I'm sorry, guys. Power just went out. I just sat here and went, what? And that's it.
Mm.
So, apologies. Sorry about that. Anyway, we were just starting to discuss, what that major event was, and you were saying, you were a kid at the time, so you didn't have a reason to take things seriously.
That's it.
And that was, pretty much what you were saying, but there must have been some kind of event that just called your attention.
I think right before it dropped, I was thinking I was learning about the MK Ultra, COINTELPRO, things to that effect. And, as I all, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. As I think I've often said in videos and in interviews, just looking at President Bush, the elder, there was something that didn't sit right with me, and especially when I smoked a little herb, I could just not, there was something that didn't. There was something amiss with him, and you can see the evil in his eyes, and that. In conjunction with all the stuff I was learning about the COINTELPRO, about the MK Ultra, and a few other things, that I can't think of offhand. Just the shady nature of the government.
Like the nature of the FBI, the fact that they had actually infiltrated groups and actually fomented difficulties on domestic soil in order to create a situation so they could arrest people, destroy political movements, things like that. Those realities will come into your mind. Plus the interaction of the CIA with not only the military, but with the civilian population, all that stuff that came out actually when you were a real little kid or not even born.
Yeah, the CIA coups, stuff like that. And then everything just leading up to 9/11, by 2000, we were getting into the chemtrails and the vaccines, just population control, soft kill on a whole. Eugenics, things like that. Alex Jones, the stepping stone, that he is. He became popular in my circle, and it was fun to watch him and listen to him.
Oh yeah, at first that is fun, but after a while you get tired of your anxiety level being whipped up.
Yeah. It's going to happen, folks. It's going to happen. The Russians are dropping nukes right now as we speak. Y2K.
Oh yes, let's not forget that because that was one of the things, right?
Yeah.
A couple of months ago, somebody asked me to go. You ought to check out what's going on. All right. So I go and I do that, and it literally sounded like we were being invaded by a standing army on the southern border of this country.
Yeah, per the Y2K outburst of Jones.
Almost like that. But people don't remember that he literally did make so many doomsday pronouncements that it was all basically coming to a head and boom and all this.
Martial law's coming, folks.
Yeah, right now. And 15 years later, and we're getting to it, but it ain't gonna happen like that. It's not gonna go. But all right. Anyway, enough AJ, because I don't even want to waste time with that. A lot of people are trying to call in. You want to take a couple of calls while we're just going back and forth, too?
Absolutely. Why not?
All right. So, listen, if you want to call in and talk to PayDay Monsanto, 718-717-8296 is the number. Again, 718-717-8296. I didn't put out in the little ads that I was going to take calls, but, oh, look, here we go. Got one coming in already. So let's see. We got the 703 area code. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Chuck? This is Dennis, man.
Oh, Dennis Ford, my brother.
Ford.
I was mentioning you a little while ago before I had the power outage incident. So,
Yeah, I heard that. If anything, man, I was just calling in, to show support because both you guys, man, I support what you guys do, and I'm glad it finally, the show finally came together where, Payday's on tonight, and awesome show, man. I've been listening to the whole show here, so like I said, just showing support, man. I didn't know how long you were going to be running the show tonight, so I figured I'd call in.
well,
Thanks, Dennis.
appreciate that, Dennis. And again, a big thank you for helping hook us up, because I really wanted to talk to this gentleman a long time, and it's because I appreciate his art, and not just because of the political end of it, but the entire portrait that I get from PayDay Monsanto is just amazing. So
Right.
I'm appreciative that you could help facilitate this, brother.
Yeah, no
That's
doubt.
love.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just I wish it would have came together a little bit sooner, but it happened, so that's good. Real quick, you just brought up a good point I wanted to touch on because I was having a conversation the other day with a good friend of mine about Payday's music, and he brought up a point. He was saying, Payday is not necessarily just one genre. I mean, there's a lot of political, anti-establishment music that Payday makes, but also Payday sent me a song a couple weeks ago that had nothing to do with any political things at all. It was totally off the subject of that, and even that song was incredible. And Payday, the song I'm talking about, but
I'm not sure, Dennis.
yeah, it was it was a song about what you're dealing with right now with
Okay.
all that mess, and the song really didn't have anything to do with what the political aspect of things, but it was like poetry. It was just so well put together. I don't know. It was just really, it's very different from what people would normally expect from you. So after I talked to him, he reminded me that you can actually you can do songs. I'm pretty sure you could do a song about anything, but when it comes to the anti-establishment music or the truth music, quote unquote, like you were talking about on my show, if people don't bring up your name, then I don't know who they're listening to. You know what I'm saying? You have to mention PayDay Monsanto when it comes to this genre.
Oh yeah, but it goes way beyond that, because again, that's why I didn't take this as let's just have a political discussion.
Right.
I wanted to hear about the flavor of the music too, and where that came from, and there's a whole story here. And just because he sometimes focuses on the political and on the geopolitical and geopolitical social ramifications of things doesn't mean that that's the only thing he can do. There's a lot of dimensions to this, and that's sort of what I'm trying to explain to the audience in case they never heard of PayDay Monsanto. I don't know who the hell would be listening to me that didn't, but
Right.
but even so, if you haven't heard, you need to. Okay.
Well, you brought up a good point too. Just a couple things I wanted to touch on that you were talking about earlier. When you were talking about who helps Payday in production and all this stuff, and I've known that for a while, that it's just him doing all this, and even the beats. When it comes to the beats that he's producing, some of the beats are incredible. Like the stuff that he comes up with, whether it's a sample from an older tune or just something he threw together or whatever. But all the beats that I've heard, I really haven't heard too many that aren't good beats. But I wanted to ask Payday about this. Maybe in the future, if you could do like a song with like a real heavy 808 in it, like the heavy bass thing, because I don't know, I'm just a fan of like bass in the music, but not to say that not to say that it's not in your music, but you know what I'm talking about, like the heavy 808, that shakes the room and stuff. That would be something I would like to hear from you.
You're reading my mind, or you must have been spying on me.
Yeah.
That sounds like the opening line to that track right there.
It does.
Because I was just thinking about that the other day. I was listening to some of your music, and also on Thursdays, me and Lee Peer, we kind of just do the Payday Thursday thing where we post your music, and I post on the pages and whatnot. But just going over some of your catalog, just a song with like that heavy bass, not like a any kind of mainstream sound to it or anything, but just like a I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I'm pretty sure you know what I'm
Something
getting
to
at.
rattle the trunk.
Yeah,
I got you.
yeah. Definitely. That's
For
it
a
right there.
sustained period of time.
You got it. You got
Like
it.
this. Hold on, you got speakers on? I just learned how to make my own 808. Let me see, bear with me here.
Nice.
Yeah, there we go.
And I added Ian Maddox into the call. How you
Oh,
doing,
there we go.
brother?
What's up, y'all? How you doing? How y'all
All
doing
right.
tonight?
What's up, E?
Hey, Dennis. Hey, how you doing, brother? How's that there Dennis sports show going?
Nah, it's going. That's
Hey,
about
man.
all I got.
Hey,
You know?
man. Hey, blessings, bro. Blessings. Hey, PayDay Monsanto. Hey, much inspiration behind your music. A lot of good truth musicians out there. You are one of many that I get much inspiration from when I hear your music. I just want to say blessings to you, brother. And
Much thanks, Mr. Maddox.
I just want to say thank you very much for all your music and all you put out there, man. That takes a lot of heart, man.
Thanks for listening, brother.
And I'm terribly sorry for what's going on with your daughter and all that's going on out there. I just want to say, man, God be with
Appreciate
you.
it, man. Yeah,
God be with you. It'll all go right in the end.
it will. It will.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that situation or not, so I didn't want to bring it up, but you kind of mentioned it before.
You know, God doesn't like ugly, and I don't want to say much because there's just some things going on, and you know, I'm all I will say is this foreign order that I got from this airhead is going to. I'm going to post a video for a ceremonial burning of this thing in the barbecue pit once it gets set aside.
Right.
You know, foreign order telling me that she has sole interim custody of my daughter after abducting her. It's ridiculous. It's not going to stand. U.S. Code 1204, you can get up to 3 years when you take a child who has been residing in the States habitually outside of the States. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah,
Right. Real quick, I wanted to bring this up because, like I said, I don't know how much time we got in the show, but I want to throw this out there for anybody that may be listening. Also, when it comes to PayDay, it's bigger than the music because PayDay is very well educated on a lot of things. Like, I don't think people really understand. Of course, when you listen to his music, like a 3-minute track, you're going to learn a lot. You can get a lot of information from his music. But when it comes to general information on a lot of things, PayDay is very, very well educated on a lot of things. And I've just picked that up just from conversating with him over the years and stuff. But I definitely want to let people know that, you know.
Well, heck, you can hear his education through the lyrics behind his music.
Well, that's what I'm
the style
saying.
in which he performs his music in. You can hear his heart. You can hear his passion. You can hear his actual thought patterns. You can hear everything. Maybe not everything he knows, but the majority of his knowledge and what he puts out there is in every way in which he forms out his music. So that shows his intelligence. Because a lot of these rappers and these musicians, whatever genre you want to put them in, it's hard to follow a truth rapper if you're in the world, because truth rappers and any form of truth music, whether it be rock or whatever, if you want to put the word genre out there, truth music is truth music because it forms intelligence. And that's just it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's it.
And the thing is, a lot of these kids, they can't get in a lot unless they're really into intelligence, which a lot of these young people, a lot of these people of our generation, they don't really understand intelligence. So it's like it's hard to follow people who have heart and passion and ideals, and because it's like they can't follow a Polar the White, they can't follow a PayDay Monsanto, they can't follow a Matrix, they can't follow people like Renegade because it takes intelligence to know what they're saying.
Well, but you know what? The beauty part about this is as follows. Even if you don't understand the lyrics that are coming at you, you get a lot of other flavors that he's built into the music.
Yes.
And those things might take a little bit more time to resonate in your mind, okay? But the intellectual and the conceptual come together in the total sound. And just listening to the conversation that I've been having with him tonight, I mean, he speaks in a poetic cadence on occasion, but it's still all well-founded. It's still backed by some sort of knowledge. It's not just posturing for the sake of posturing and so on and so forth. You know, this is him being him, and it comes out in his music, and that's why I was discussing his music without even examining the lyrical content, you know, because everybody focuses on just the lyrical content when it comes to Payday. But I wanted to take a step aside and say, look, there is a total portrait here. There is not just the figure in the portrait. There is a landscape. You know, there is the
Yes.
sky in the painting. There is the frame, everything. You know, so that's the approach I was taking here, and I hope I'm doing it for you guys, giving you
You're
that
too
approach.
kind, Chuck. You're too kind. Bless your cotton socks, as my friend from.
I
What
never heard that. I
what
never
did
heard
I
nobody
say?
say that.
I love it. I love it. That's hysterical. But anyway, anybody else who wants to join in on this discussion, um, and I'm probably gonna let one of you guys go in a couple of minutes here because other people are trying to get in. So 718-717-8296, or if you're on my Skype list, I'll just add you in if you want to call in. Okay, but again, you know, Payday Monsanto, we're talking about a lot of different things. I really love discussing the you know, the music outside of the politics. The politics are something that we're gonna have to get to, but first let's talk about, you know, the other parts of the portrait. That's the way I see it. And again, I'm not a praying person, but my best thoughts, my best energies are with you, brother, regarding your situation with your child, and we'll leave that alone because again, there's no reason to go ugly, uh, you know,
No.
while we're doing this. I mean, there are other things that we can go ugly over, and the world is an ugly place without us contributing to it.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah.
So, you know, again, I'd rather just celebrate your artistry today. If you wanted to get on this show though and spend 2 hours talking about that situation, my mic is open for you. All right,
Appreciate it.
but back to it. Uh, so we were talking about the evolution of Payday, right? Like, you know, how it is he came to a different way of thinking and how that influenced not only his lyrical content but his sound. Okay. Um, Another question I got for you is when you started putting this stuff out, what kind of responses did you get when you first distributed it?
Uh, Many would balk at it. Many would scoff at it. There was some warm reception. Of course, it's only gotten warmer. I never really actively promoted myself. I actually purposefully wanted to put it out and see what kind of organic reception that it might develop and might, you know, happen without actively promoting it too zealously.
Mm.
And you know, I'm happy to say that it's spread further and wider than I thought it would without that without pushing it down people's throat. But you know, the response was generally that of apathy. You know, and it mimics the response that I get now. You know,
Well, because that's the reality of the world is that
because
there's
yes, that's
a
it.
whole lot of apathy anyway. So at least you knew you were part of the real world. That's for sure. Because apathy is a sign of reality at this point.
Hmm.
You know, but when did you notice though that other people that were involved in like broadcasting or involved in like making YouTube videos and stuff like that were starting to sort of adopt you? Because you're one of the most adopted hip hop artists for certain, but artists in general in music, I would say, regarding sort of out of the mainstream thought process types of creations out there, whether they're making videos about something they've newly discovered or some piece of research or a political issue, whatever. When did you notice that you were sort of being adopted into that as part of other artist presentations and other broadcasters playing you and things like that? When did that happen?
Uh, I would say maybe a couple years after Lambs of the Slaughter, or you know, just 2009.
Mm.
But in 2005, I wasn't, I didn't. I had a big year in 2005, and there's still a lot of stuff that hasn't even been heard yet because it's unfinished it's just not complete totally, but it's fleshed out enough to where something could be, you know, probably around 2007, I would say, between 2005 and 2009, and then, into 2010, I think people were putting out videos with my stuff in it. Brand One Angel was like a one-man street team in particular. One-man street team in particular is just flooding YouTube with my stuff. And, I don't think I've gotten the reception that I could have had I pushed it. And that's, I'm going to start branding my stuff as of this year. It's that's why I haven't put anything out as of yet, because the next thing I put out, I want to make sure that it's tight and it has something that I can brand and promote.
Well, you definitely deserve it, because I mean, all this time that you've been putting this stuff out, and like I said, other people have been, seizing upon it, utilizing it in their own presentations. I mean, again, you can even hear your stuff. I bet you there's documentaries you haven't even seen that contain your music that you hear about every now and then, right?
It happens once in a while, but I think what I was trying not to say cookie cutter. I want to do something that's more commercially viable, but I want to put the medicine inside the Twinkie, so to speak, so people don't even know that they're getting it.
Right. What do you think the cream is? It's FDA regulated.
But that's the thing.
I want to bake the goodness, the medicine in the cookie, so when people eat it, they don't even realize that they're being cured.
Right.
The cannabis in the cookie.
When it comes to the talent that you have, it wouldn't be that hard for you to, get that attention from the mainstream, because obviously you have a lot more talent than a lot of artists in the mainstream right now. So I'm sure it wouldn't be hard for you to compose a song that would grab their attention. Not that you haven't already been approached by somebody, trying to get you into that avenue or whatever, but also you would have to change your name or something, right? Because they would type in your name and all this stuff would come up on YouTube or wherever it is, and they'd be like, well, wait a minute, we can't.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We can't sign this guy,
Well, we can't have him representing all of that.
Well, see, here's the thing, though, is that actually when you take a guy like PayDay, if you can convince him to, join the dark side, all right, actually, that's a pretty useful thing. And I'm wondering, just based on what Dennis was just saying, I mean, have you been sort of approached by more corporate people who said, hey, look, if you change up what you're doing some, we can get you some money, brother. How about that?
Well, there's been hints of that, throughout the years. But, I never even took it that far, or I didn't even consider it.
Well, heck, man, you might have to change it if they wanted you to. You might have, if you were to consider it, they might want you to change your name to PayDay Lord Vader or something.
Yeah.
I have a question too for you, PayDay, because I know, we need money to survive and everything. But when you got into making music, was it ever about the money to you? Was that like one of the goals for you? Because I'm just me thinking, I don't think it was.
It never was. It never was.
Okay. Yeah, because I picked that up a long time ago with your music, and like you said earlier, just with the promotion and things like that. It's like you have some people out here, including myself, that just push your music everywhere, and it's just like I remember when I first got into it, I was like, why isn't PayDay posting this music like every day? Like most artists do, in the truth movement or whatever. You'll see them post their music or whatever, and I don't know. I had to go back to like 2012 to just see where you posted one of your songs in the beginning, but I don't know. I just picked up on that. Like I figured you would never. The money was never what you were striving to accomplish, but very easily you could do that. If they did approach you or something.
Seeing what the industry is and how it works, it kind of dissuaded me. It's unattractive the way it works and the way the artists just get ripped off. And an independent thing is more viable at this point, and that's what I'm going to do.
Well, yeah, because there has been a major change in the music industry.
Oh yeah.
There used to be a time when you got ripped off one way. Now you get ripped off a whole new way. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, there's another way you get ripped off too, Chuck, that we're not going to talk about. I don't see PayDay doing that.
There you go. That's something else. But but the thing is, right? They used to pay you on what they called the point system when it came to selling units of your music that was packaged, right? Mm-hmm. That system is all dead now because of the advent of the internet and being so accessible to everybody. Now it doesn't function the same way. You can't package the product the same way. And really, the whole music industry is still reeling from that and hasn't quite figured out how to be profitable. This is why so many of these companies, I don't even know how they remain in business unless they're subsidized, to be honest with you, because they're selling nothing.
Right.
Except an idea, and an idea isn't cost effective when it comes to the advertising dollars that they got to put out there to push it.
Oh my goodness! I think about that with everything these days. Because figure, when some of us were growing up in the '80s, and when we were growing up as kids, in order to be in animation, you had to know how to draw. Phineas and Ferb, SpongeBob, where the hell are these kids watching these days? You don't even have to know how to draw to be a cartoonist.
Well, in fairness, though, the stuff that we were watching was being literally, the hard work was being done in Korea anyway. And American cartoonists couldn't get no work because there wasn't no work. They were exporting it. That's the way it went. Nowadays you can do it electronically to the lowest bidder.
On a laptop with a bad artist.
There you go. And it doesn't even take a lot of skill.
Right.
And that does make sense to equate that to the music industry, I think, PayDay. But, I think that if you keep on with what you're doing, the reward is going to come, and it's going to be something wholly unique, and you definitely deserve it. Whatever you get that's profitable, whatever you get that goes on the plus side for you, brother, you deserve it all. So I want you to know that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But let me step back into this just a little bit more because, again, I'm just curious about a lot of stuff when it comes to your music. And I mean, again, I'm not going to focus on a lot of the politics, but I mean, is there anything you want to say just for yourself about the way people have interpreted your music, or how you feel about the reception that you get nowadays? Because it was about 5 years ago that I first heard of you. I think it was 5, might have been 4 years ago, something like that. And Tyrannus is a monster song. I love that thing. I was shocked because one night on a musical show with Dennis, we were talking about you, and he said, "Oh, I never heard this track before," and I was surprised because usually he pulls out all kinds of stuff I never heard of from you before, and I said, "You got to be kidding me, man! That track, along with Addicts Wanted, those are like the two. Like I could play them on a loop all day and be happy, But what do you, how do you feel about the way you're being received nowadays, though, as opposed to the way it started out with all that apathy? I mean, is it still the same, or?
No, I think it's increased, Chuck, a lot. But I think if I would have not ventured into a particular topic, that I would have opened up a lot more doors, or a lot more doors could have potentially been open for me had I chose to knock on them. And I think, once I became outspoken, I think, or became known to those that know me or those that would know me, to be outspoken about the Khazarian, our little Jewish friends who basically run, two, among other things, two very important facets by which control is implemented. And, we're talking about the money and the media. And, there's a lot of people who otherwise would have either collaborated with me or undersigned me that haven't. And, I know that to be the case for sure in a couple instances. And it's because they don't want to be affiliated with someone who can be seen and branded as an anti-Semite. and in a certain lexicon and by certain definitions, I am an anti-Semite. But, I think that's absolutely ridiculous on its face when you consider the fact that the people of whom I speak aren't even Semites themselves. But going by their definitions, yes, I agree, but their definitions are wrong. But a lot of times you have to use words in the lexicon to even make an effect.
To be relatable.
Yeah, to be relatable. You have to use their lexicon and their vernacular.
The Catskills is not a tourist attraction for anyone who understands that as equally as you and I. And I live in the Catskills, and you and I understand that clearly as anyone else who understands that.
Also, Payday, what you were just talking about with that whole subject, we just went through that the other day when I commented on this other well-known rapper's page, and you commented on it. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's it.
That's part of the reason why people, you're kind of blackballed at a certain point.
They don't want to touch me with a 10. They wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot mic. Just like journalists don't want to touch me with a 10-foot typewriter. They don't want any parts of me.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. It's strange to see that divide, right?
Yeah.
So-called music editors, and in the city papers and whatnot.
And what modern day America doesn't realize, it's all owned by, we know what we're talking about here. It's all owned by Zionists. Just about every business, everything.
What isn't owned seems to be leveraged anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's this is the sad state we find ourselves in. Yeah. And again, and I always say this, I don't believe it is the only factor in the world, but it definitely is a factor.
A contributing one.
Yeah, it is definitely a significant factor in the world, because when you consider the control of the money, which is the most unquestionable.
You take out that debt instrument, and you take out that media manipulation, and we have a much happier world. It's not going to be a perfect world, but it's going to be a lot happier and much more. There's going to be a much more evenness and stability to it.
Well, not only that, but a whole lot less disingenuous as it exists now.
And if I can take this time to separate what people understand, there's three different forms of that. There's the actual Zionism, which is a political movement, which people don't understand the difference between the people that are Orthodox. And then there's the third part, which I can't quite remember offhand, there's three different forms of actual Judaism, and there are people in America today that throw them all in a nutshell that think, they're all the same. No, they're not. And that's what confuses the whole narrative and makes it all upsetting for the whole thing.
Well, Zionism is of Judaism. But it's a part of Judaism. And most Jews aren't even religious.
Yeah, I know.
They're atheists.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe in a God to be a Jew. No. It's not about religion at all. And that's what people don't understand.
Payday, right. You hit it on
They will play the race. They'll play the race card and the religion card when it's convenient, just like they'll play the white card. They'll pretend to be white when it's convenient, and then they'll say we're not white when it's convenient, and they'll pretend to be religious when it's convenient, and then they'll say that they're atheists when it's convenient. They have so many angles to play.
Right.
Payday, I can say one more thing to you, and I only want to say it once. Marching to Zion is a documentary on framing the world on a YouTube channel. There's a YouTube channel out there called Framing the World. And look for the documentary, Marching to Zion. That's the only thing I want to say. You've seen it?
I've seen it.
You've seen it? I encourage everyone to look at it before they say anything about this, what we're saying. That's all I want to say right on that.
All right. Like I said before, anybody else that wants to join in, and Ian, I'm going to let you go.
All right, peace.
Take care, brother.
Thanks, Ian. Peace, y'all. Eat for eternity.
Eat for eternity.
Look for us on AIM soon.
That's right, AIM. That's a new network coming up that Ian's going to run, and there you go. Ian Maddox, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.
So, the thing is, it's not just about this one particular facet. It's not as though we're not talking about convenience being the issue. It's more about the hypocrisy that those that seem to masquerade as one thing when they are another, and it's not only relegated to the Jewish community. There's a whole lot of people out there masquerading, for particular political gain, for particular financial gain, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a whole lot of masquerading going on, and of course, this is one of your big focuses. And yeah, I could see how you could wind up getting blackballed a bit. I say that sarcastically, but
Yeah.
but I hear you on this. I mean, it's definitely, I don't know. It almost seems insane that people that are so concerned with maintaining, their own freedom of expression would try to suppress you based on that. Not taking into account the magnitude of what it is that you're producing altogether, but simply seizing upon that one particular aspect of your presentation.
Yeah.
It's insane, man.
And it's become a more prominent aspect of late, in the scope of maybe the last 4 or 5 years, but it's not the only facet, of course, but it has become a bit more prominent. I've always touched on it in one way or another, even in the most subtle forms in the, 2000, early 2000s.
No,
but it's a big issue, man. It's a big issue in my mind. I see it at play everywhere I look. It's like, you can't turn over a rock when you see something awry and amiss and afoot. You can't turn over a rock without finding these people, and it's a shame. And even Jews who speak about this, whether it be from your Bobby Fishers or your Gilad Atzmans, or your Norman Finkelsteins, these people are blackballed as well. Finkelstein was basically denied the tenure that he was just about to get, just because of he wrote a book, The Holocaust Industry. You can talk about anything else, but you even set foot on that sacred something as sacred as the Holocaust to them, the Holocaust. It's political suicide.
Right.
And that's a term that the FBI used when discussing the dancing Israelis. It's multitudinous. The FBI says that we will not disclose the identity or any more information about these dancing Israelis because to do so would be suicide. But meanwhile, you have documents, FBI documents, where they talk about these Israelis, where they're holding up lighters, just in pictures, taking photographs, where they're holding up a lighter in front of the North Tower, smoking, shortly after it was hit, in position to film it. To think that that's possible, to think that there were people there ready for this to happen, and they were actually filmed it, and the FBI verified it. And to think that this information is classified, I mean, that's all you really need to know in understanding the control that is wielded by these people, and the sympathy card that they play is just
victim status.
Yeah, the victim status that has helped them throughout the years, throughout the millennia. Just poor me, you're persecuting me again. Here you are. You're an anti-Semite, and that's all you got to say. And boom, you're blacklisted. And if you're Helen Thomas, they take your award away and fire you. When she's the real Semite, telling them, she's Lebanese, telling them that who aren't even Semites to go home. Now, this she interviewed Abraham Lincoln, for God's sake. She's been in the White House press so long. And she says one little comment, and they fire her and take away the award that some college gives to students, for years now. And there are just, replete examples of this.
Right, and the inexplicable fact that we have so many dual citizens, and I don't even care what country it would be from, it's still notable that we have dual citizens, serving in our government that are allegedly, constitutionally obligated to defend our nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But wait a minute, I got split loyalties, and I could care less if it was two Sweden. That doesn't make any sort of sense. But not only is it permissible, but it's advantageous to
But
be a
Chuck,
dual
if it was
citizen.
to Sweden, that's when people would be up in arms. That's when the media would be called on and used to make everybody go crazy. Oh, we have, Swedish dual citizens writing Obama's speech or advising Obama.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm willing to bet that we actually do. Uh, oh man, you know what? And I wanted to touch on this real quick because, as you watch things, because usually stuff that is racially related, that whole divide and conquer strategy. Excuse me. That kind of thing is usually fodder for hip hop music. That's the kind of thing that's always been discussed in hip hop music. I mean, since just slightly post Sugar Hill Gang, all right?
Yep, yep. That's why it was so imperative for them to take control of it and, create gangster rap and push that,
There you go.
Well,
Because
that's exactly
it's a
what it
tool.
is.
It's a great tool to use, and when you can speak the truth unabated, it becomes dangerous. And when you can keep artists who do speak the truth relegated to, virtually non-existent existence, it, it it helps them greatly to be able to control the industry and produce and direct the trajectory of the music that's produced from it. And you see, it's all garbage. Some of
Yeah,
this
I was gonna.
stuff, they have little kids growing up listening to this stuff.
I was just about to say that. I was going to throw that out there. Has anybody listened to any mainstream hip hop in the has anybody just checked it out on the radio? Because it's almost painful to listen to. It's so bad.
Yeah, and I haven't. But every time I do, every time somebody sends me something, I'm stunned. I never thought I could be, I thought all that was over. I thought I reached the ceiling on the. Yeah.
They keep making the ceiling higher on all this stuff, and
They keep lifting that ceiling on the degradation, Chuck.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the controlled demolition of what could have potentially been a culture, absolutely imploding in front of your eyes. And being promoted, not only being promoted but being encouraged, and that's the only purpose for that stuff. I mean, and some of it is artistically interesting. Some of it, and I'm not even talking currently, but I mean stuff from. I have not turned on a hip hop station. I got to be honest with you, in at least a decade, at least, because I couldn't take it.
When I get called a rapper, man, I cringe sometimes just because of the connotation that comes along with it.
Right.
It makes me wince.
Yeah, because that's a good point. Because I was posting one of your songs just a couple of years ago, and it said, new hip hop song or something in the title, and people were like, I can't even listen to hip hop anymore. And I was like, well, this would be considered genre of hip hop, but it's totally different than what people already have in their mind of what hip hop. That's why hip hop is actually turned off a lot of people from listening to it.
It has.
Because before I found anybody like you or Diesel or any of these people, I was at the point where I didn't even want to hear it anymore.
And the suits at the record companies who produce this shit, they don't let their kids listen to
hell
this
no.
garbage.
Hell no. There was a rapper that came out and said that. He said, I forgot his name, who said it, but he said that he doesn't let his kids listen to the music, but it's all right for everybody else's kids to listen to it, but, he won't play it for his children.
I can just see them, I can see them laughing at at everyone becoming just at the influence that this has over everyone, and just laughing at it. And not even hip hop, just the culture in general. Whether it's the latest ice bucket challenge or the internet, whatever they're doing this week on the internet, just the things that they can make people do. They have to laugh at it.
Yeah, this week is the whole rebel flag thing, and before that it was the shooter, the church shooter.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, they've been passing stuff in the Senate and everything left and right all week.
Yeah, we're getting trade agreements and everything else going right on through. And,
right on through.
And meanwhile, focus on the fact that Amazon took away the flags. Uh, 910, you're on the air with PayDay Monsanto.
Wisconsin, where you at?
Hey, what's up?
Wisconsin, stand up.
I don't even know what this is.
You don't know what this is?
No.
Where you
I'm
at,
checking
Milwaukee?
numbers in my phone and trying to get rid of some, and I'm like,
And you're live on the air. You're live on the air right now. There's
oh,
a million people
Lord.
listening. What are you doing? We have a show happening.
You are on the air. The name of the show is the Ochelli Effect, and my guest is hip hop artist PayDay Monsanto. Any of that sound familiar to you?
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know who any of us are?
Now that's awesome.
I'm sorry. Do you know who any of us are?
No, not really. I think my husband has this number in here.
Oh, cool.
Ah, smart
right.
man.
Well, thank him. Tell him that Chuck Ochelli and PayDay Monsanto thank him for having that
Delete
number.
that number. Don't delete it.
And
That's awesome.
you got access to YouTube?
Yes, sir.
All right, do yourself a favor. Just enter 2 words, literally PayDay, 1 word, and another word, Monsanto.
Okay.
All right, check
yeah,
that out.
I know who they are.
Well,
I know who they are.
Well, he is one guy. He is on the air.
I'm talking about Monsanto in general.
Right. Okay. You know who Monsanto is. All right.
Yeah.
Well, enter those 2 words together, and you'll get something much different than Monsanto. I promise you.
Right.
So
you get the antithesis.
So.
But anyway.
Well, this is interesting. So I'm live on the air. What? Is it like a radio show type thing or what?
Yes, ma'am. UCY.TV.
Oh, that's cool. TV.
Yeah. Well, it does.
Dear
it does
Lord.
happen. I had open phone lines, so there you go. But look,
You are using your cell phone camera right now. Your hair is fine. Don't fix it. It's fine.
Oh. Actually, I'm on a flip phone, but thank
Oh, right.
Oh, that's okay. All right. You never know what's going to happen on this show, man. Sometimes I get drunk callers that are yelling at the wrong guest because they were listening to a replay. It's all right. It's all right. It's all good. Exactly. So I forgot what the hell we were talking about now with this lady calling in.
Well, sort of like, what was going on this week in the news and whatnot. But
right, because I was talking about how
distractions.
Speaking of distractions, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you'd almost think that was planned. But anyway, let's
here's something, Chuck, I wanted to bring up real quick.
Sure.
This shooter that shot shot 9 people, as we're told, in the church. All right, the police dashboard video was released of them arresting this guy, right? And I've never seen cops act this nice to a person. I mean, they do their thing, they check you out or whatever, but they just treated this guy like he was, no threat at all. Like he didn't just kill 9 people. Matter of fact, they took him to Burger King before they took him down to the station.
They bought him a burger.
Yeah.
Well, look.
Meanwhile, there's other videos where they don't even hesitate. They just start shooting.
Well,
but this dude,
the bowl cut has a calming effect on some people. That's what it is.
But that whole thing, just like always, it screams the false flag thing. I'm not saying that's necessarily what happened, but it's screaming that. And also, when it comes to this whole situation of that happening, you have to, in the back of your mind, know that they're doing something. That's part of the distraction method. Whenever these things happen, something is going on behind the scenes. They're doing something, and that's what I've been seeing all week with the TPP. The California just passed a vaccine bill or something where they want to make it. You had people that didn't want to vaccinate their children because of religious or personal beliefs, so they did away with that. So now it's going to be mandatory no matter what.
Well, they tried that here in North Carolina, and of course, PayDay's point about not wanting the poison to go to their children, even though they're involved in the production of it. Of course, that carries right on over to vaccinations, doesn't it? How many doctors do you hear about that really want to vaccinate their children?
Well, they don't.
Unless they're brain damaged themselves. In which case, look, they want to have a chip off the old block, I guess. But the reality is, anybody who's got their head screwed on, half straight, doesn't want to see this. And of course, they tried the same type of thing, removing exemptions in North Carolina recently, and thankfully it was shot down, because otherwise, I was about ready to pick up and go. Bottom line. But and PayDay, what do you think about that? The fact that people that are willing to poison others, I mean, really are not so willing to poison their own offspring. I mean, what do you think that really says?
Well, I think it happens in many respects, whether it be the producers of the music or producers of the vaccinations, or just the general people behind the poison. The people making it, they know it's poison, and thus they don't want to give it to their offspring. And it only follows. Why would you? If you and many doctors, unfortunately, do. Probably not most certainly not the majority, but there's doctors out there. They most probably in many cases have the thimerosal free, aluminum free. So because vaccines, the concept, it could work, even though I don't believe that injecting something into your body, I believe the body sees it as a foreign a foreign substance that has entered your body, and it's going to fight it. And if there's natural stuff in there, like a squalene, it's going to kill off the squalene that entered illegally, as far as your body's concerned, and then it's going to start trying to, you're going to have an autoimmune response, and it's going to look for the natural squalene, and then you're going to get rheumatoid arthritis, and all the things that come with that when you're depleted of squalene.
Well, just like we have this proliferation of all these, peanut allergies and egg allergies and everything else, and it's no wonder, considering the fact that they used a lot of these elements in the base product, and it was obviously a foreign invader in the body, and the body does what it's supposed to do, which is defeat the foreign invader, right? And so if you add eggs or you add some sort of dairy product into the vaccination process, well, obviously the body is going to interpret that ever after.
And that's going to get carried down vertically, transgenerationally, and as it has.
And this is evident now, and this is why I can't see how it there is still this concept among a lot of people out there, and again, not likely to be the concept of people that are listening to us right now, but possibly that this should be an unquestionable thing, that the medical industry is to be trusted. But you know what? The justice system doesn't work because it's for profit. Okay? The medical industry doesn't work because it's for profit, because profit comes before people. The military-industrial complex is not serving our interests. It is serving itself, because it is quite a bit for profit. Okay? And that's what the bottom line is. And this is the kind of stuff that you eloquently put out in your music and your lyrics. Okay? And I absolutely love it, man. And I'm so glad that we had this time tonight. We only got about maybe 20 minutes left where I can keep doing this with you. You still good to hang with me, PayDay?
I'm good. It went quick. I was thinking, maybe an hour's passed, but I see, more like an hour and a half.
All right. Well, good, because and we'll still take phone calls, by the way. It's 718. Hopefully you're calling into the show this time. 718-717-8296. I can definitely add you into the call, or if you're on the Charles.Ochelli Skype list, I will add you straight on in, and you'll be live on with PayDay, all right? So, back to it, though. Now that you're getting the warmer reception, and, just like with anything, when time passes and things get to resonate with you personally, and you've gotten your response back from the art you've created, right? Now, I'm sure you're looking at going further, taking things to another level, what level is that going to be? Because as is right now, if you kept producing virtually the same stuff that you've already done, I'd be thrilled. But it doesn't mean that that's where you're going to remain. I mean, what are new directions you're looking at?
Well, I'm probably always going to stay in the nucleus of what I do now, but I'm going to do some experimental stuff, and I want to. One of these experimental projects is going to be something that's a little bit more palpable to someone who's not privy, as we are, to the goings on of the New World Order agenda, for lack of a better term, and it's going to be followed by some promotion. I'm not going to change my name. It's going to be under the same moniker, but it's going to be actually promoted and branded. And we're going to do that same thing that I did by just putting it out there and seeing what kind of organic response I get. We're just going to do that same thing, but it's just going to be a streamlined promotion in as many streams as I possibly can, many avenues as I could possibly take, many channels as I could flood it with, and we're just going to see what happens from there.
Well, I'll tell you what.
But it's going to be a generally more digestible to the average American or world citizen.
I understand that. And this is the good thing. I'll tell you what. Right now, I'm going to tell you that when you do decide to go on that push. Again, if I have a venue, please come and promote with me, because I want to see where this goes. That's for sure.
Me too.
And and I know Dennis would have you on every day if he could.
Yep, that's a fact.
I certainly will, Chuck.
We appreciate what you're doing, and definitely, like I said, I look forward to seeing what directions you're going to go in. And you were talking about, in fact, the idea that you were going to make things more palatable by using subtext as opposed to being as blunt as you've been. But the message isn't going to change, right? It's just going to have its sort of subtle flavor as opposed to, well, for lack of a better word, again, to say as being blunt as you've been thus far. Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah, that just about sums it up,
Hey, actually, PayDay, if I don't know if Chuck's heard it, but maybe you can send him a few tracks or something from the Lost tapes. The last mixtape that you dropped that a lot of people don't even know about, but a lot of tracks on that have nothing to do with the New World Order. Some of them about women. There's all kinds of stuff on there.
Shoot them anything over. Shoot it all to them if you can.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do, Chuck. I'll get some of that to you, and it's like 50 tracks.
Well,
so.
We'll figure out a way to hook up on that, because I would love to have. I mean,
I think you'll get an insight as to what we were speaking about earlier. Like the pre-political.
Also, I had a question for you, PayDay, before we get out of here tonight, because I see a lot of artists doing this, from Diesel to a lot of people. But I was just interested if you're getting into maybe thinking about doing an actual video, like footage and all that.
Yeah.
Is that ever? You've been thinking about that?
That's going to come with with the future projects.
Right on. Because I've seen you perform live and things like that, but the actual official video is something I want to see. I want to see that. So yeah.
Yeah, we're going to make that happen.
All right, that'll work. Because Diesel, I don't know how far you guys are into communicating, but he does a lot of that with making videos and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know. That'd just be something I'd be interested in seeing. It kind of, I don't know. I figure it's time, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's time.
And just for the listeners' benefit, if it wasn't for that power outage earlier, I had a bunch of stuff set up. I was going to play some more clips from PayDay songs and everything. So that got all screwed up because I totally lost power. But so my apologies. I definitely was going to get to some more tracks and ask you about specific stuff. Do you mind if we go into a couple of specifics even without playing the tracks, PayDay?
No, not at all, Chuck.
All right. Because, again, And let me try and pull up the list real quick, because God knows what'll open, or maybe the power will go out again. All right, here we go. Of course, Missiles with Relish. All right, just that title alone. All right, which is one of the newer pieces that's floating around. You want to explain that title, or give people an insight as to exactly what you meant?
That's just a quote, from a rabbi who basically says that the Palestinians, animals they are, we will give them missiles with relish. And I just kind of took that. It stuck out to me, and I put his face on the cover there. And this is before I even had the title track, which that the whole cover and the concept inspired me to make the title track. And it's just it just gives the listener an idea of what to expect if they know anything about it or don't, or if they care to look it up, where that term is. Because when you type it in, usually you find Avida Yosef, the rabbi who said this, Ovadia Yosef, Obadiah, however the hell you say his name. But, this is a guy who had the largest funeral in Israel's history, and he was a rabid anti-human and anti-Gentile. So it just goes to show, what is on the hearts and minds of this little defenseless country called Israel. And they threw the largest celebratory funeral for this guy.
Right, and it speaks to the real nature of the darkness that's...
It speaks to the sentiment of the people there.
Right, which has led to largest open-air concentration camp on the planet, and the devastation, the actual genocide, the actual anti-Semitic genocide that's occurring in that part of the world. But anyway, to move forward, automated torture. Another track I really appreciate, by the way. I would have to put that on that playlist, like I said, along with Tyrannus and Addicts Wanted, right? So, what is that? Where did that come from?
That's Automated Oppression. Who shot JFK?
No, Automated Torture, I think it's called. I thought it was called, anyways. Maybe I got the track wrong.
I think it was mistitled. What are some of the content in the song?
No, you're right. You know what? I'm looking at it now, and I'm just misquoting your damn song.
Oh, well, that was actually written in 1999, pre 9/11, and I think I added to it in 2004. Is when I actually completed it. I think I finished the third verse, which was undone. But that's around the time that I started becoming aware that things are not what they seem, with respect to what is mentioned in the song, JFK, RFK, MLK, that these people, Lennon as well, John Lennon, people who speak about peace and they have the power to actually unite and have the power to impact change, they're not welcomed as much as they, people, the powers that be pretend that they are a welcomed addition. They're not, and they're neutralized in the end.
Right. Everybody from Mahatma Gandhi to Malcolm X to MLK, JFK, and RFK.
Absolutely, man. And that's just a culmination of me of the awareness of that. As to the level that I was aware at the time. It just hit me.
No, I got you. That's why I bring it up. Actually, I mean, I kind of stumbled over the title and was having to look back at it myself. But that's the reason why I brought it up, because I focus on the political assassinations, especially, but the atmosphere of murder that took place, spearheaded by our Central Intelligence Agency, especially in the 60s and 70s. That entire atmosphere that ever after resonated on the planet is one of those remarkable things to me, and one of those watershed areas of history that need never be forgotten. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I brought that one up and wanted you to speak about that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Let's see, and also, the 9/11 Truth. There's a track that's just generally referred to as 9/11 Truth.
Mm.
Now, you've gone through a couple of different. I mean, I've heard you speak about 9/11 in a lot of songs, and it seems as though your viewpoints changed a bit on that. Am I misreading things, or have you kind of gone through an evolution regarding what it is that you think happened, or how you interpret those events, or the results
Well,
from
it's
those
definitely
events?
changed, but can you be more specific as to what?
Well, what I'm saying is, at one point when you realized things were wrong and you realized, that we'd all been lied to, that was one point, right? That you were sticking to in some of your lyrics, but in general, it seems to me as though you shifted from that to kind of understanding that there was somebody responsible,
Mm.
and you're sort of having to lay blame on somebody now, as the songs seem to progress.
Yeah, okay. I think I see where you're going. It was highly suspect. This somebody, and I just didn't have the wherewithal to put it down, nor did I want to undergo any kind of scrutiny and be questioned when I couldn't answer them. And then when I finally learned specificities relating to it, I just couldn't hold my tongue anymore. And we're talking about some of our Jewish friends.
Yeah, well, I know I led you right back into that, yeah, but it's exactly where I was going.
Yeah, the country that benefited most, and the people that benefited most from all this was Israel. And, you had like 25, mostly Jews, and even a Jew said this, it's not a secret, for the Project for New American Century, writing a year prior to where they need a new Pearl Harbor to go into Iraq. Absent a new Pearl Harbor, it's bound to be they needed a catastrophic and catalyzing event. And they got their new Pearl Harbor a year later, and then, Israel was very happy. And Benjamin Netanyahu even says that, what does this mean? Oh, we're very happy. It's very good for Israel. And then, he quickly corrected himself, saying that, well, not very good. It's not very good, but it will garner some sympathy for Israel. Something to that effect.
Yeah, who was that said 9/11 was a blessing? I can't remember.
That might have been like Shimon Peres or one of the other nuts. It might have even been Netanyahu.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think he said that in a song, but I couldn't remember who said it. But yeah, they said that it was a blessing.
Yeah, they love it. They love it, and it benefited them greatly, as we can see, because all of these wars are Israel's wars. Whether the 7-country plan they have, and culminating with Iran, and what they're doing to Iran now, I don't. They seem to be hindered, but they're going to keep on trying. They're going to keep on trying.
I wanted to ask you something real quick. I know we're running out of time too, Chuck, but I wanted to run this by PayDay because I got a couple friends that asked me this throughout the years. They were just asking me, the Bible says one thing about Israel, you're supposed to stand with Israel or whatever, the whole John Hagee thing, right?
Yeah.
So my friend was asking me, she was like, so why are people always, attacking the Jews and saying the Jews are this and the Jews are that? And, because they're Christian, basically the friends that were asking me this, they were like, well,
yeah.
If you believe in the Bible, you're supposed to stand with them regardless. And I don't think that's right, but it's hard to explain that to people, especially when they're coming from the religious aspect of it, where that's just what's in the Bible because, the Bible says we're supposed to, like I said, the whole John Hagee thing, he can get more people to rally for Israel than he can for Jesus, which is fascinating.
Well, John,
isn't that something else?
John Hagee's an incredible example, but this resonates throughout, all of organized Christianity in this country at this point. It seems as though even your most obscure pastor, exhorts their congregation to be
Right.
sure to support Israel because it is for the sake of their own mortal souls that they must, because this is God's chosen, et cetera, et cetera, without ever understanding that the modern state of Israel has no realistic correlation to what is even being inferred
Right. Right.
in
And
the
Dennis, a
Bible.
lot of people will, a lot of people who are familiar with the Bible will go back and say, well, have you read a passage? What is it? I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan.
Right. The synagogue. Yep.
So beware of those who call themselves Jews but are in fact not, and of the synagogue of Satan. And I think there's some relevance to that, obviously, because these people are not Jews, or they're not Semites.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe they use that. Of course, they use that. They use that to mislead people, to say, we do all this bad shit, but we're the chosen people, which is crazy. Like, I don't see how, like, somebody, say your friend was a liar and a cheater and kill people and shit. Eventually you would cut them off, and people won't do that with Israel. They just give them the benefit of the doubt. Same thing they do with the government. The government's full of shit. They lie to us. They do all this shit, and people still, praise these people. I don't understand it. Like, the shit don't make no sense. But
it's amazing. A lot of people see the government as their mom,
Right.
like a parent.
Right.
Right, and just like their mom or a member of their family, they seem to want to defend them.
Right.
Very much like in the 1800s, there were many an American slave who were quite willing to lay down and die for the slave master. It does not mean that it's morally correct, but they were conditioned to do so, and that's exactly what we're looking at. Listen, I've only got let me see here, maybe
4
a
minutes.
minute and a half left actually before we're going to wind up with my bumper kicking in automatically. So I kind of want to just give the floor to you, PayDay, and just see if there's a general message in your mind that you want people to gather from the art that you've created, and just go for it, whatever it is you want to say.
Well, briefly, if you're new to this, to PayDay, and you're listening to this, just check out my catalog. It's on YouTube, basically, a large part of it. And, think for yourself when you hear it, or when you hear anything. Just do your own research. And it's cliche as it sounds, don't believe anything that I say. Do your own research. Never take anybody at face value. And, enjoy it or don't. But have a listen.
There you go. And Dennis, I want to thank you again for helping to bring this together, and also for calling in tonight, my brother. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck, for everything and having me on. And PayDay, we'll talk soon. The same thing with you too, Chuck. It's been a while since I've been on the Ochelli Effect, so I want to talk to you about that maybe in the future, coming back on.
We'll do that again. And also, I want to thank the listener. I'm gonna let you go, Dennis. And
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Close this out. And again, PayDay, I want to thank you for your time, and for your art, because that's what it is. It's art, and you know what? If you don't like it, that's fine, but give it a listen. And again, just for the sake of the art itself, it's something. Even if you don't necessarily agree with all the views contained within, who knows? He may be planting the seeds that'll change you later.
I appreciate the kind words, man, and thanks for listening, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, we'll do it again soon.
Night. Absolutely.
You as well.
So that was PayDay Monsanto, and I want to thank everybody for listening to the Ochelli Effect here tonight on UCY.TV at UCY.TV/TOE, where we do appreciate you checking things out there. And if you're catching it further downstream, you are also appreciated. So everybody have a good night. I know that bumper's about to kill what I'm saying, but that's the way it goes. Stay tuned, and who knows what'll happen next. I'm not actually sure who comes after me. I think Double Cross Radio will come on at 10 o'clock. So there's another guy with the name Chuck on there, and Drew. They do that. So that's the green logo there at UCY.TV. But I'm pretty happy with this show despite the power outage. And like he said, think for yourself.